Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently, it's not politically correct for me to say ladies and gentlemen anymore, but I like being called a gentleman. And I'm struggling with why people are so upset about Bill 1557 or the Parental Rights and Education Bill. Why do some people insist that we need to teach kids sex education at such a young age? I listened to several members of Disney's leadership yesterday explain how they're now going to make twice as much LGBT content in response. I heard that on the Daily Wire, by the way. I guess that's fine if that's what your viewers want. Is that what your viewers want? Is that what parents want to be showing kids? Ultimately, is that what people really want? But if not, it does feel like they're forcing things on us. And if they are trying to force an ideology, then that's clearly wrong, in my opinion. I also listened to a teacher on MSNBC explain how he can't share with his kids what he did over the weekend anymore, as if his kids in his class were his. How does this bill prevent you from telling your kids what you did over the weekend? It makes no sense. People are deliberately choosing not to admit what's actually in this bill, and you know this teacher read it and he knows otherwise. Even if you are part of the leftist tribe, how do you sit there and listen to people try and lie to you, knowing they know that they're lying to you? Ron DeSantis had some things to say in response to some of Disney's employees. And I say some because it was reported over 60% of Disney's employees actually support this bill. So DeSantis said for Disney to come out and put out a statement and say that the bill should have never passed and that they're going to work actively to repeal it, one, is fundamentally dishonest, and two, cross the line. DeSantis detailed the logic behind the second point. For them to say they're going to work to repeal protections for parents as a company that's supposedly marketing its services to parents with young children, I think they cross the line. I do agree with DeSantis here. Disney always claims to be all about the family. This bill protects the family, so why wouldn't they support it? He then explained how democracy is supposed to work. This state is governed by the interests of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of California corporate executives. They do not run the state. They do not control the state of Florida. The governor continued. I also thought it was interesting. I talked to the Speaker of the Florida House, and he said that Disney never even reached out to him. Disney never objected to this. And if Disney had such a problem, then why weren't they speaking up at the outset? I believe it was because the CEO of Disney was okay with the bill, based on what I've heard. Anyways, also, it seems Disney only cares about the LGBTQ community in America because they still do businesses with countries like Japan, where same-sex marriage is still against the law. And what about China? Why do people feel so compelled to teach kids about things they don't even understand yet? Why do teachers and schools think because a kid is in their class or in their school that kid belongs to them? It does feel off. It doesn't feel right. And it kind of does feel like they're trying to indoctrinate kids. So DeSantis is suing Biden over the transportation mask mandates. DeSantis announced on Tuesday that Florida is leading 20 other states in a lawsuit against the Biden administration's transportation mask mandates. The federal government recently extended the air and transit mask mandate to April 18th, and it covers all forms of commercial transportation, including planes, trains, boats, and buses, as well as hubs like airports, train stations, and subway stations, plus taxis and ride-along share vehicles. It's unfortunate that these mandates don't just disappear. I mentioned the other day that NBC polls show that only 3% of the country still cares about COVID. And we got some more Biden budget news. Apparently, Biden's budget would mean the smallest army since World War II. Amid a major land war in Europe, the Biden administration's fiscal 2023 budget request would temporarily shrink active duty army to 470,000 troops if enacted by Congress. That would leave the service at its smallest size since 1940. The administration's proposed budget would reduce active duty force from 487,000 to 473,000. They do want to maintain the National Guard, but ultimately they want to reduce the total of Army across all three components to just under 1 million. Army officials who briefed reporters on the budget request claimed that they proactively made a decision to temporarily reduce our end strength due to the struggles recruiting quality soldiers. That's interesting. The service has also requested to reduce its end strength target for fiscal year 2022 to 476,000. The plan is to regrow the active force back to the 485,000 troops across the 5-year budget plan, though it's not clear when that would occur. The article went on to say that the Genius cut was also recognizing that as we look ahead to recurring projections, we weren't going to be able to get where we needed to be in 2022 without making some decisions about changing our standards. Officials added that this is not a budget-driven decision, it's entirely about quality, and we will look to build back up our end strength. So a couple things here. They don't seem to be reducing it all that much, 485 to 473, but this would be the smallest army we've had in a while. With the world on the brink of war, I'm not sure that's a good idea. What really stood out to me was the fact that they're doing this to improve the quality of recruits. We've all seen and heard about the woke army recruiting commercials. I hate that word woke, but it's true. Those commercials tried being woke. I also personally know military members who recently decided not to re-enlist because of the current military culture. They want to regrow the military with better quality soldiers. It seems to me that wokeism is just ruining everything. It also seems to me like woke people don't even know they're woke half the time. They just go along with everything. So if you find you're going along with stuff all the time, you might be woke. Yet again, in my opinion, this does not reflect well on Biden. So over in Ukraine, Musk's Starlink is now adding Ukrainian military strikes. Or aiding in Ukrainian military strikes. So Elon Musk's Starlink network of satellites was marked as a means to provide internet access in hard-to-reach locations. But now these powerful devices are being used to guide Ukrainian drone strikes. We use Starlink equipment and connect the drone team with our artillery team, one Ukrainian officer told Britain's The Times, adding that his unit uses Starlink to connect between drones flying surveillance and artillery batteries firing on Russian positions. If we use a drone with thermal vision at night, the drone must connect through Starlink to the artillery guy and create target acquisition, the officer said. Starlink has also been a major source of internet for Ukrainians otherwise cut off from the world. This has led to cyber duels between the company and Russia, as the invading forces have attempted to jam Starlink receivers, and the satellite company just keeps issuing new software updates to bypass them. Good for Elon Musk for helping out here. Like I've said in the past, he's our version of Tony Stark. I wonder if Russia not giving Elon his engines has anything to do with this. Probably not. I'm just kidding, even though I know I'm not supposed to joke around anymore. Anyways, here's a really cool story. I think this was beautiful. It's a story about a woman named Marta Harf. I think it's called Harf. I think her last name's pronounced Harf. Sorry if you haven't noticed, my pronunciation of words is really bad. Anyways, I found this story relevant because of the recent MSNBC attack on fitness. I think MSNBC was way out of line, and it's because of stories like this. I shared with you the other day why fitness was so important to me. Marta is one of millions of people all around the world who use fitness to turn their life around. So here's her story. When I was 17 years old, my parents took me through a one-day medical checkup. It's called a manager screening here in Hungary, where I'm from, and it involves all types of tests, from blood tests to an ultrasound. The doctors at the screening said they found spots on my liver, first with an ultrasound and then with an MRI. They suggested it could be liver cancer. That's when the suffering for the next 15 years began. I took my test to another doctor for a second opinion. He said it was a benign liver tumor and warned against doing things like heavy weightlifting or falling over because it could cause a blood vessel to rupture. The only treatment doctors proposed was a liver transplant. To be prepared for a rare fatal complication, I drafted a goodbye text to my parents on my phone. I never imagined that 16 years later, I would not only be competing as a bodybuilder, but also winning the Miss Olympia title in the Angel category of the 2018 Natural Olympia, a major bodybuilding competition. It was the best way to end the years of struggle caused by being misdiagnosed. It took me many years to find out the spots on my liver were not harmful at all. After the second opinion, I sought advice from more doctors, trying to find a less invasive treatment than a transplant. But the whole experience broke me. I was living in fear. My doctors wanted to put me on the transplant list because they thought that was my only treatment. The mental struggles led to depression, followed by eating disorders, reflux, and other stress-related symptoms. One day when I was 22 years old, a specialist suggested a liver biopsy after my blood test came back with a hepatitis-like result. When I had been vaccinated against, I checked all my medications for potential side effects, and one clearly stated the possibility of a hepatitis-like blood test result I had. That's when I started to question the diagnosis and trashed all my medications. Maybe it was partially the useful rebellion as a university student, but it had become too much for me to handle. The next 10 years went by without doctor's appointments, but deep down, I felt it wasn't right. I loved all kinds of sports, from snowboarding to tennis, but I thought I shouldn't be doing them. As a result of my eating disorder and stress, I lost a lot of weight. I started looking into healthier food choices and doing light training in the gym. It was my way to escape. At 32, I finally met with a doctor who changed my life. When I handed over my thick medical folder, the doctor clammed me by saying, "If truly this was your condition, do you think we'd sit here and chat right now?" The doctor confirmed that the spots on my liver are just like these little pigmentations, these little spots, which could be hereditary. They could be from birth control or teenage acne medication, but are nothing serious. It took me a couple years to really believe that I was healthy. With my newfound well-being, my initial goal was to do a 220-pound squat. Shortly after hitting that goal, I was introduced to bodybuilding, and my first competition was on my 33rd birthday. I'd gotten a taste, and within 3 years, I qualified for and won the 2018 Natural Olympia in Las Vegas as the first Hungarian in the Angel category. Since then, I've become a nutrition coach. I've judged bodybuilding competitions and helped others prepare for contests. While the misdiagnosis took away years of physical activity, I'm grateful I get to compete in a newfound passion. There you go, MSNBC. That doesn't seem like a right-wing thing to me, does it? Multiple lessons here. Don't attack groups of people. Don't give in to your animosities towards people like MSNBC did. Let go of your hate. Stop judging others and worry about yourself. You don't need to be someone like Marta for working out to change your life and give you meaning. Thank you for listening to The Jay Rooney Show.